Channing Tatum, Kirsten Dunst, and Peter Dinklage come together in Roofman, a story about this dude who escaped prison only to then hide out in a Toys R Us for several months, which I guess is kind of a prison of its own. But are you going to want to shell out the cash to see this in the theater, or should you wait to watch it at home? Jeffrey Manchester is a former Army Ranger and struggling father who turns to robbing McDonald's restaurants by cutting holes in their roofs, earning him the nickname Roofman. After escaping prison, he secretly lives inside a Toys R Us for 6 months, but when he falls for a divorced mom drawn to his undeniable charm, his double life begins to unravel, setting off a compelling and suspenseful game of cat and mouse as his past closes in. Channing Tatum is Jeff, who then goes by John later in the story, and he presents a deep and wide range of emotions, using his charming goofiness to just craft this disarming and endearing flawed hero. There were multiple moments where I felt the depth of his sadness and regret, but this was also balanced through genuine displays of joy and contentment. We know the character is not fully a good guy, but he's also not fully a bad guy either. I think Zangief said it best. You're a bad guy, but that doesn't mean you're a bad guy. I was enthralled by the character just thanks to Channing's performance, dreading what seemed inevitable, which meant a not-so-happy ending. Now, the trailer made it appear like a comedy with some drama. Really, though, this is a drama with comedic moments. And these aren't distractions from the heart of the story. The humor works to enhance the poignant elements, giving characters or situations relatability just because they feel genuine and similar to real life. The connection that's built with John, it's earned, thanks to the time that we spend watching him be in his head. We see his mental progression that ranges from fear to concern to empathy to love to then conflicted desperation. Kirsten Dunst Lee is another charming character who channels so much positivity and idealism. And the way she crafts Lee feels a lot like her character in Elizabethtown, full of warmth, compassion, empathy, and hope. Dunst provides a grounded and real portrayal, making Lee to be relatable and optimistic without being cliché or annoying. And her dynamic with Tatum, I thought it was encouraging and sweet. The brief time that we see them interacting keeps them mainly in this honeymoon phase, but not devoid of some conflict, creating a believable relationship that I was fully cheering for. While Lakeith Stanfield is great in just about everything he's in, here his role is minimized and created to basically just be the good bad guy who tells Jeff the truth about what he must do if he wants to stay out of prison. And the no-nonsense approach to the character, it works, making him pragmatic, but not without at least a tiny bit of concern. So while there's not much for the character to do, Stanfield still brings way more than expected. And Peter Dinklage is good in his role as the condescending and grumpy Toys R Us store manager, but the time that we spend with him, it's kind of useless, only serving to show that the dude is an a-hole who couldn't care less about his employees. And the character is meant to serve as this contrast to John, who is way more caring and compassionate, but still considered the bad guy. However, the scenes typically don't lead anywhere useful. And I can't fault Dinklage because his performance is meanly funny and then somewhat slapsticky comedic. But ultimately, the character gets way more screen time than's deserved. This is just over 2 hours, and before going in, I was mildly concerned that the story was going to drag or just linger too long on elements in the attempt to create some sympathy for John. And while there is a lot of that, as I had mentioned before, the extended time that's spent with the character, it allows us to feel the loneliness and the monotony of his isolation. And this doesn't take away from the fact that he's still an escaped convicted felon, but the time is efficiently used to create some affecting character depth, creating these connections that maintain the hope and the heart of the story. That being said, there are some scenes that I think could have been trimmed down without harming the plot, like some of the extended church choir singing. But even these would alter the trajectory if they were fully eliminated. And there are also some elements that didn't really make a whole lot of sense to me. When John is hiding out in the Toys R Us, the store manager, Peter Dinklage, notices that items begin to go missing, but nothing is done about it. There's barely even anything mentioned in the dialogue other than what was shown in the trailer where bullying was taking place. And like probably most people, I've worked in retail, and when things start to go missing and there's a growing amount of shrinkage, steps are then taken to stop it, whether that be more security, random employee checks, or just a plethora of security cameras. So when it goes unaddressed for so long, it just kind of feels apart from realism. Is this something that breaks the illusion of the whole world building? No, but it is an element that stood out to me as odd. I think the largest hurdle the film has is that while it crafts a narrative where we root hard for the criminal, the assumption that this won't end well is ever present, hovering above the plot and then consistently threatening to ruin an otherwise hopeful arc. I was a little afraid of how much I wanted to become invested in the characters and then the storyline, just for fear of the heartbreak that I was certain was going to come through. By the end, though, I was fully connected to everything taking place and was ready to deal with some disappointment, especially since this is based on a true story. And what helped immensely with the enjoyment was the amount of character growth that we get to watch. John, while he is very flawed, he's not static and illustrates this change of heart and then a realization of his actions. And this then creates a sense of hopefulness, despite circumstances unfolding that aren't necessarily the fairy tale ending. So overall, Roofman was way more affecting with its depth than I imagined it could be. Channing Tatum turns in an excellent performance, showcasing a multifaceted portrayal that could have been displayed as one-dimensional, but instead demonstrates desperation, regret, compassion, empathy, and immense emotional growth. Despite there being scenes that could be trimmed and some unnecessary character elements, the storytelling is engaging, quirky, heartfelt, and funny, all while crafting a narrative that will leave you with a smile on your face. There's a little sex, some nudity, bunch of profanity, and then some violence. I give Roofman 4 out of 5 couches. Okay, so are you a fan of Tatum's? I mean, if so, what's your favorite movie with him in it? Now, I love all these small cameos that he does, like in Free Guy and Bullet Train, but I think I like him best as Jenko in the Jump Street movies. Let me know your favorite, though, in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.